Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today I'm excited to do a comparison flip through between the new latest edition of the Victorian Romantic Tarot with my previous edition. Now, this is a video that I wasn't sure I was going to do because like a lot of people are getting this deck and a lot of people are doing flip throughs, but this was something that I wanted to do for myself to see the side-by-side comparison, to see the changes that have been made in the new edition compared to the previous one. And so I thought I'd just turn on the camera and we'd just do it together. Okay, so I've got a little cup of coffee here. So we can just spend a little time checking out this new deck and comparing it to my previous edition. So I did actually go through and put this one back in order because what I'm really curious is that there have been changes made to several of the cards, I do believe. I pretty much bought this sight unseen as soon as I heard there was another edition coming out. Let's go ahead and just move this one out of the way for a moment and take a look at the new one. Obviously, as you can see, it came in this beautiful wooden box, which actually looks quite lovely on the shelf. It has a little magnetic clip here, and I have taken off all the wrapping and everything just to make this a little bit easier. But you can see it's just a really nice wooden box. So here is the beautiful card backs, which I think are quite lovely, and they are, I do believe, have that cold foil stamping. And we have, of course, the little guidebook. So let's go ahead and get it out. So this is the, hopefully it says, it's whatever the previous edition was. So the guidebooks are different paper. This is more paper, and this feels more like magazine paper almost. It's a little bit more coated. I was just looking to see if this one says 2018. And it doesn't really say the edition. Oh, it says 2018 on the card. So that's the title card for the previous edition. And then we have the title card for the new one, which is obviously 2021. Let's see if this one says. Again, no real edition number listed in the guidebook. I mean, I'm not looking real carefully, of course, but I do believe this was the previous edition to this one, because that seems about right. I don't think we've seen a Victorian Romantic release since around 2018. So, I do have the extra cards set aside for this particular deck because I've kept the ones in here that I use so that you can see which ones I was using. But I do have the extras set aside here so we can take a look at those. So here's the two title cards, both quite beautiful, and then we can do a comparison of the backs. I think both are beautiful, but I am quite fond of these backs, and it may just be because for as long as I've, had this deck, I've been using it and looking at these backs. These are lovely, but I like this one better. It just looks a little bit more Jane Austen to me. Not that that matters, but okay, let's go ahead and do our little side-by-side comparison. So I have if you can't tell, my edition, which is well used, well loved, and a little bit bowed, is on the right here. And then I have the brand new edition on the left. So of course, both cards feature that lovely Baba Studios cardstock, which is absolutely beautiful and feels exactly the same. They both have the cold foil stamping, which as I turn it into the sunlight, looks like it's in the exact same places. So I'm just gonna kind of do a little flip through and we'll see where the changes are. Again, I bought the first one sight unseen. So I wasn't paying any attention to what changes there were. I was just like, there's a new edition, I'm buying it. Because that's how much I love this deck, that I wanted the new edition. And now I get to actually see what changes were made. Because again, I didn't look. I kind of wanted to be surprised, which is also why I haven't watched any videos yet on this, because I wanted to wait and see the changes for myself. So printing wise, I mean, the colors look really similar. However, I can see a bit more detail in the shadows in my previous edition. So it looks like these colors are a bit softer. It's not, the contrast isn't quite so high, and I do feel like I can see the details better in the shadow here in my old edition. Like you can really tell it here into the table, and you can really tell it up here in the I should probably quit picking them up, right? That's probably annoying. You can really tell it over here in the dark wood area of the, whatever, the bed or whatever that is behind him. You can see the details a lot better here than you can here. As you can see, titles are the same. Whiter? Nope, it's the exact same font. Very, very slightly different coloration on the whites. This is a bit more gray in the old edition, and the new edition is a bit more beige. But other than that, like, you know, it's beautiful. It's Baba Studios. So our High Priestess is the same. Our Empress is the same. And I'm really glad of that because those are two of my favorite cards in this deck. I really hope that my other favorite cards are the same because then I'd be really happy. So the Emperor is the same here. So let's flip. Oh, look. Okay. So we have two Emperors. That's fantastic. So we have the original Emperor and here's our new Emperor. Let's put those together. I do quite like that, although I'm not so sure how that fits with the, I mean, I know they're trying for more diversity, but I'm not sure how that fits with the rest of the, because we have a very definite, I mean, I guess we have the Oracle of Delphi here, kind of Venus looking. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how that fits. I do really like that Emperor though. So our Hierophant is the same. I would have liked to have seen something different there. Okay, so Lovers. So here's the original two Lovers. So this was the two that came in the first edition deck. Is there two in this one? There is, so those are the same. And I pulled this one out because to me this looks like the Two of Cups. And so I went with this Lovers. But it looks like they have both available for you. Chariots look the same. Oh, nope, they are not. I take that back. The little gargoyles or dogs or whatever's pulling the chariot are red in the previous edition, and looks like a black blue in the new edition. I think I like this better because it ties into her cloak and we get a nice, from a design standpoint, a nice kind of continuation circle here. Whereas this one feels, they do feel more shadowy in this sense, but they definitely stand out more in this card, and I just, personal preference, I like this one better. I'll be curious to see the changes and like if I need to keep both decks. It's just kind of where I'm going with this. Do I really need to keep both decks? And, you know, is there one that I prefer over the other? I do feel like this font is a little bit easier to read, but it could just be the trick of the light or my eyes. These look exactly the same. The Hermit is exactly the same, it looks. And our Wheel, don't see any changes there. Justice, I don't see any changes there either. Just trying to kind of like, you know, move to catch the light to see if things have changed in any way, shape, or form. The Hanged Man looks the same. So Death, I love this Death card. Oh, there's a little bit of difference here. So in this one, the it looks like it was previously rock and now they've colored it to be his robe. I need to stop picking those up, I'm sorry. I just like wanting to see. I feel like the colors are richer in this card, and you can see the cloak here is that teal color coming all the way down, which again I really like from a design standpoint. Really balances out her cloak over here, or his, can't tell. And here it's like rock. So they've basically recolored the rock to make it look like more of the cloak coming down, more of the fabric, which I do quite like. It adds that nice balance, that pop of color there. Still one of my favorite Death cards. Temperance, it looks like we've got a little bit more saturation in this card, more pinks coming through the clouds. Obviously her dress looks a little bit more blue. I'm not sure how well the color is going to pick up on camera, but we're going to go for it. Okay, there are two devils, so obviously this is the one I have in my deck. This is the other one. So those look pretty much the same. And there's our alternate, and that's the one that I do keep in my deck. Just quite beautiful. Again, those look very similar. The Tower, I do think this is a great Tower card. Whoops, picking up too many cards. The Star, again, which I love, looks the same. Not seeing any obvious differences. Same with the moon. Such beautiful artwork in this deck. The sun looks the same as well. Judgment. Just trying to catch, like, are there any minor differences? I do feel like in some of the cards, the colors pop a little bit more in the new edition, but that's hard to say whether that's a printing thing or the fact that I've been using my Victorian Romantic since 2018. The World card looks the same. So here we go into our wands. There is a fuzzy on that wand. Again, same kind of energy depicted. So here's our 2s, our 3s. Not seeing any noticeable difference here. 4s. Kind of flip a little bit quicker until I see something that like really catches my eye that's different, or we come across a very obvious change in the cards. 7 looks the same. Here's our 8. So it's looking like the majority of the deck is actually the same. So here's the page, because what I'm trying to kind of figure out is, do I need both? Are they different enough that I need both? Right now I'm thinking probably not. Okay, so here's a big change. So this is the original Queen of Wands, and here's the new Queen of Wands. Let's make sure there's not an alternate under there. I think they're both pretty. It's not so much of a change that I'm like, oh, I just absolutely need the new one because this, that, or the other. Yeah, I think they're close enough. King is the same. The Ace. So we'll go back through and look at the cards that have been changed. And maybe take a little bit closer look once we figure out what those all are. This looks the same. Because I'm feeling like for the most part, the majority of this deck is actually the same. I thought there was going to be more changes than this, to be perfectly honest, when they said they were updating some of the cards. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not like disappointed because I absolutely love the Victorian Romantic and I like it just the way it is as well. Beautiful 8 of Cups, I love that one. But, you know, this is really kind of now making me realize that, yeah, I do not need both of these decks probably, because there's not enough differences to warrant keeping the two versions. Unless you're like a collector, and that's cool, but I do like to use the majority of my decks that I use. I love this Queen of Cups. I'm glad she didn't change. It's one of my favorites. And the King. So our Ace of Swords looks the same. And our 2. And our 3. Okay, so the bundle color has changed. Again, probably just to draw more out of that. You can see more of the heart shape now, which, I mean, if you read the 3 of Swords that way, that's cool. That's going to draw more attention to. If you see the bundle here actually makes the heart shape, whereas here the bundle kind of just blends in with the rock color, which is fine with me because we all know how I feel about the 3 of Swords. So here's our 4, which looks the same, and our 5, and our 6. So it looks like there's some detail maybe in the water here, and the water is a different color. Slightly more in focus, a little bit less blurry. You can see a little bit more of the detail in the water. Here's the 7 and the 8. I feel like the 8 in this one is just a tiny bit moodier. The colors are just a little bit deeper, like you can see it in the red. You can see just more of the detail. More of the detail picking out. Oh, I'm so glad this 9 of Swords didn't change because I absolutely love this 9 of Swords. It's fantastic. As this 10 of Swords as well, I'm really glad this one didn't change because I really, really like this one as well. All right. Oh, our Page of Swords is different. So we've gone with more of a female page, which I do quite like, although this character's quite androgynous. I think it could go either way. It's quite beautiful. I do really like this new Page of Swords. And here's our Knight, which looks the same. Our queen, they've darkened her skin tone in this one. That's quite interesting, right? Not sure how I feel about that, to be perfectly honest. It's the same character, they've just darkened the skin tone. So here we have the King of Swords. It's the same. Ace of Pentacles. Looks like, again, just more bringing out those colors, bringing out the details. Our 2, our 3, the 4. Again, these all look the same, just those colors. You know, when you're looking at them side by side, it's in the little things that you can really tell. And in the shadows, the whole thing is just a little bit, like they bump the contrast up to just pull out those shadows a little bit more, with the exception of the Magician, which is interesting. It's like the Magician didn't get bumped up. This 7 of Pentacles is one of my favorites, and I actually do really like the bump up in the saturation because you can really see the detail in her dress and the shadowy lines. And look at all the darkness and the heaviness in the foliage, and then the light coming through. I think that's actually quite beautiful. So there are a couple cards that I feel like they've made some really, really great changes to. This one, interesting, is her hat. I'll have to look on camera. Again, just deeper colors, but her hat looks like it might be slightly different color. Her 10, same page, or same night. And our Queen of Pentacles has changed, which actually is quite lovely because, you know, the Queen of Pentacles, if you've watched any of my other videos, is kind of my card, and this is not my favorite Queen of Pentacles. I think her hair and the collaging on that particular card was not done very well. This is beautiful. And the King. Okay, so let's just take a look at the cards that have changed. So I have my older edition on the right here and my new edition on the left. Obviously, big change in our Queen of Pentacles, and as I mentioned in the walkthrough, I really don't care for this Queen of Pentacles, so I really do like the new one. So that's definitely kind of like a point in favor for this deck, this new edition. But again, I'm trying to decide, do I really need them both? If you don't have this deck at all, like, I love working with this deck, I love reading with this deck, I would highly recommend it. But if you're like me and like I have the new edition and the older edition, now I'm kind of just trying to decide. The Queen of Swords, like, again, all they did was darken her skin. And she's beautiful, but I don't know how I feel about that. So our pages are very, very different here, our Page of Swords. I do quite like this one. This one I think fits the kind of scope of the deck better in terms of being the Victorian Romantic Tarot. And sometimes I feel like they try to add things and different layers just to make a deck more diverse, and I don't know that that always necessarily works when it kind of shifts outside the scope of the deck on the whole. Again, this one, I didn't pick out too many cards that had like color variation differences because like that's such a slight thing. I think that if you're looking at this deck and you're kind of like trying to decide, and you do read the Three of Swords as Heartbreak, I think having this bundle here being kind of more pulled to the forefront with the color change might be really great for you. But for me, because I don't read it that way, I actually prefer it to be more as a background element like it is here. So our Queen of Wands has changed, and I think she's quite beautiful in both. I don't think I have a preference. I like that in this one she has a mask in her hand, which I think is kind of cool. I don't think she has one in her hand here. The Chariot, again, the only difference I really see is the little dog, winged dog demon things here. As I mentioned in the walkthrough, I like the red ones better because it ties in with her cloak color, makes this nice kind of circle of color with this central figure, the actual charioteer in the in the center, which I quite like from a design standpoint. Again, it's the same card, right? So just slightly different. I think they blend in a little bit too much in this new edition, but that's just, again, personal preference. So Emperor, we have an alternate. We do have the original in the new version as well, but we also have an alternate for the Emperor. And again, just like I said with the page, I don't know that this really, like, I love the idea of the Egyptian Emperor, but I don't know that it really fits with the rest of the deck. And there are a couple of them that feel that way, to be perfectly honest. Like, they went through and like were just trying to find places where they could try to add some diversity. I guess you could kind of speak to that one a little bit. This for sure, because it adds, you know, they changed her skin color, and it's the same person. And I don't know why, but that doesn't really sit well with me. I feel like they should have used a different model, a different person, rather than just changing the skin tone. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles, which is quite beautiful. And that's a whole nother topic that I'm not even going to get into in this video, because this video is really about comparing the two different versions of the Victorian Romantic, taking a look at this new version here, and then, you know, kind of looking at the changes that have been made. So we've had some subtle changes in color tone like we saw in the Chariot, some different colorations like we saw in the Death card, and the Three of Swords. The Queen of Wands has been changed, but again, I'm not sure what the change was there, what the thinking was behind the change. So in my first edition, or it's not the first edition, it's like the fourth or fifth or the previous to this one, there were very few card changes that I feel like, to be perfectly honest, that I need to give up this one. I do like that one. I've used it quite a bit. I'm quite like attached and bonded to it type of a thing, right? It's been kind of like my tried and true. I always keep my extra cards in the box in here. I do like this box better. And that's another thing I will say. I like the backs better. I like the box better. The wooden box is cool, but to be perfectly honest, we'll just throw that on top. To be perfectly honest, it's not the easiest thing to get in and out of because it doesn't open all the way, right? It just opens there, whereas this one I can open flat. This is just me being really nitpicky, but it's also me trying to decide which deck I want to keep. And I gotta say I'm leaning towards my old one just because it's comfortable, it's familiar. I like the box better, I like the backs better. And although I think the color changes in the new edition are lovely, and I do like the little bit higher saturation, I don't feel like there's been enough changes in the deck to warrant me having two copies of it. I'm not a collector of Baba Studio decks. Like, I only have two. I have this one and the Bohemian Gothic, and honestly the Bohemian Gothic is always kind of in this am I going to keep it or not space. I have another deck that I'm looking at using as I use the Bohemian Gothic, and it may very well take the place of that one, may very well end up on the rehome list at some point. But point being, I'm not like a collector of Baba Studios decks, right? I'm not really a deck collector in that sense. I do like to use all the decks that I work with, and I just don't feel that there's enough changes in this for me to warrant keeping both. Now, if you don't have this deck at all, I absolutely love working with this deck. It is one of my favorite for readings to kind of figure out what's going on in the emotional landscape. I hear it's very good for relationship readings as well. I don't do those because I've been, you know, happily married for 25 years, and I don't do relationship readings, and I don't read professionally, but I do feel like this probably would be a really wonderful deck for working with relationship readings. I do love this Queen of Pentacles. I think that it's much more in alignment with the Queen of Pentacle energy than the one in the edition my previous edition. But one card change is really not enough to make me want to swap the whole deck. And part of that is just the other one's like, it's well loved, it's well broken in, right? So it's not just a totally against this new edition. I'm just being honest, and I was hoping there was going to be more changes just so that it would be enough of a change to warrant having both of them, but I just don't feel like it is. However, like I said, if you don't have this deck at all, this is an absolutely beautiful deck. I really do love the new coloration that they have, just that they've kind of bumped up the maybe the contrast, the saturation a little bit, and with the exception of the Magician card, because the Magician card still feels more washed out than my original one, but the rest of the cards feel like they are definitely more a little bit deeper, a little bit brighter, and you can kind of see those details better. And again, the backs, I don't know, it's okay. It's not my favorite. I think have we decided? I think we've decided that this one is probably not going to stay in my collection because, again, I'm more about keeping the decks that I'm going to use. I feel like if it's between the two, I feel like I'm probably going to go to this one every time. Again, part of that is because I've had it since 2018. I've used it since 2018. I love it. I'm connected to this one. I like the backings better. I like the box better. It feels a bit more usable than this box does. This feels more like a collector edition. But again, I'm not a collector of Baba Studio decks, so that doesn't really factor into my decision. As beautiful as the card changes are, I just don't feel there are enough to warrant me having both. So I'm probably going to end up rehoming this one, to be perfectly honest, but I never want to jump the gun. So I'm gonna think about it a little bit. I'll probably see which one I feel drawn to use, but I really feel like it's gonna be my old tried and true version. Again, I also just like seeing this box better sitting on my shelf. I know that's a silly thing, but I think it also works better. Now, I don't know if this was a special thing and they're going to go back to a normal box. I have no idea because, again, I did zero research and I bought this thing sight unseen. I heard there was going to be a new edition with some changes. I immediately clicked buy the day it was announced. And I've not watched any videos. So this is just my total first impression, just me coming at it from, do I need both? I don't think I do. I love this version. This is probably the version I'm going to stick with, but it was fun to look at it. I hope that you enjoyed it. As I said, if you don't have the Victorian Romantic, this is a perfect opportunity to go and pick it up. I do believe it is still available on their website. I'll leave a link for that in the description box below for you. In the meantime, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in another video.